Good day, everyone, and welcome to the fifth episode of Why You Do What You Do by the Building Industry Association's Bay Area Young Professionals. I'm your host, Mark Sherlock. Today's guest is a Building Industry Association Bay Area board member, the Professional Women in Building Vice President, and council member of the National Association of Home Building's Professional Women in Building. Please welcome the Director of Land Acquisition for TriPointe Homes, Emily Boyd. Emily,
Thank you so much,
great
Mark.
to have you. How you doing today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure's all mine. So I gave you a brief synopsis of the program. We got 3 questions for you. Answer them however you'd like, and we'll get going. So first question, Emily, how did you get to the Director of Land Acquisition for TriPointe Homes?
Oh, so it is just about as winding and meandering as a path you could have possibly hoped to get as an answer to this question. I actually graduated with a bachelor's degree in forensic science from the University of Central Florida and a minor in chemistry, and worked for almost a decade as a forensic drug chemist in Florida. So right off the bat, not your traditional home builder, and on the other side of the country. So I guess you're probably wondering what was the catalyst for such a huge career change. And yes, I did drop catalyst in there because I'm a former chemist and I can still drop words like that. So every semester I would go back to a lecture at my alma mater, UCF, and I would talk about the day in the life of a real forensic scientist to the incoming freshmen. And afterward, I was always treated to dinner with my former professor who was turned mentor. And I had known him at this point for about 14 years. And during the dinner, he kind of casually asked me, so how things are going with work and how are things? And I replied that, I was hanging in there. And he was an older British gentleman, and he stopped and he put his fork down, and in his very thick British accent, he said, "Oh, no, that will never do. The Emily Boyd that Emily that I know would never be satisfied with just hanging in there." And and at that point, right in the middle of the restaurant, I promptly burst into tears because he knew me well, and he was right. I was not flourishing, and I was ready to make a move. So after many years being repeatedly reminded that the public sector isn't always willing or able to reward those who go above and beyond, I started to reconsider what I wanted to be when I grew up. And it's funny to think about it now because I talk about like this decade-long career, and really at that point I was like the ripe old age of 32. So it makes me laugh now, but it felt like a huge chunk in my entire pretty much adult life at that point. So there were a couple things that I knew from doing some self-reflection and being a little bit older and a little bit wiser than when I'd come out of college. I knew that I wanted to work in the private sector and work with people, but not necessarily the general public. I had also paid my dues as a bartender and as in retail service, but I did know I wanted to work on a team and collaborate. I thought I would go back to school and just get a new skill set, and I'd even applied for admission at my local community college when my best friend at the time said, "Hey, before you go and do all that, there's this position open at my company, and maybe you should just look into that before you start, going down this long path again of getting retrained and going back to school." So the company was Meritage Homes in Orlando, and the job was as an analyst in their strategic operations department covering their Florida markets. So it sounds odd on the surface, but really the jobs fit my skill set pretty well. It was analytical, it was data oriented. Luckily, they were able to train from there on software and market research and basically home building in general, as I really didn't have a clue about home building except that I lived in one. I was offered the job and thought, this was a much better alternative than taking on more student loans and starting from scratch on something unknown. But it was a really scary jump. I mean, I was raised by a single mom who worked 2 jobs to support us, and I put myself through college on scholarships and student loans. And here I was 10 years into a job that I went to school for, which I know not a lot of people have the benefit of doing. And it was a stable government job with benefits and a nice retirement package. And I think that my mom probably thought I had lost my mind, even considering walking away from something as so stable as government work, but especially to go into something so tumultuous as the home building industry. But ultimately, I decided that I needed a career that was rewarding to those who put in more, and then got more out and allowed me to be part of a team. And the only regret that I have is that I hadn't done it any sooner, and that I spent 10 years having almost buyer's remorse over this degree, and that I can't do anything different. Like, this is what I was, this is what I went to school for. This is what I was supposed to do. So anyway, flash forward a few years, I make a cross-country move from Florida to California with my entire family in tow, my husband, and at this point, my 1-year-old twins, and we left everything that we knew in Florida and had both been born and raised there, and decided to come out to California, where I could learn the incredibly high stakes and nuanced Bay Area housing market. And to be honest, play a little bit of catch up on the decade of experience that I felt like my peers had on me. Everybody kind of said, if you can make it there, you can kind of make it anywhere, especially with housing. And so I was up for the challenge, and he said, game on. Once you make a career move and then a cross country move, opportunities and things that seem scary, just they don't seem quite so scary anymore. So anyway. About 5 years after making my career move, I at that point had done market research across the South, in the Carolinas and in Florida, covered Colorado and Northern California and parts of Southern California at times. And then, of course, my main focus on the Bay Area. And then a role in a land acquisition role had presented itself. And the job that I was doing before, still with Meritage, it was a lot of travel, and it was a lot of jumping to different markets, and it was kind of more consulting side. It was dipping in and out of the divisions and working through their deals with them. So I saw it not only as an opportunity to go into land ac, to continue utilizing skill sets that I had already been developing with strategic planning and market research, but also to get to really sit with a division team, working alongside and collaborating, and also to work locally and buying land in my local market, and really to contribute real and quantifiable value to a company by sourcing and delivering lots, and to really feel like I could pinpoint and point to the contributions that I was making to my team and to the company. So that move to land ac was 4 years ago this month, and I still cannot believe that I get paid to do this job every day. It's absolutely the best choice and move that I ever made in my life. So that's how I got here.
Again, definitely the path that least less traveled, but you got where you needed to be, and congratulations on it. I mean, we've shared that story before. I've heard it before, and it amazes me to this day. As somebody who thought about forensic science and realized, I don't think I could do that. So, second question for you, Emily. What was the most inspirational moment that has shaped your career path?
So I kind of glossed over the day that I went into the Meritage offices in Orlando. So it was 2012. Home building was coming out of the Great Recession with a vengeance at this point. It was just everyone. It was all hands on deck. You have to imagine I was coming from this very controlled, sterile, literal laboratory environment, and that this is all I had ever known as a career. I mean, aside from some retail jobs here and there through summers, and a quick stint in bartending, it was laboratory life is what I knew. So I walk into this office, and I had literally changed to go to the interview in a Wendy's bathroom from my lab coat into a suit, which also was very new to me, and being in this kind of business environment. So I walk into the office, and it's the only thing I can describe as, like, from where I'd come from, just complete chaos. I mean, there were phones ringing and meetings happening, passing in the hall, and people shouting and deals getting done, and it was just like complete insanity. Electricity in the air, and I loved every second of it. I was invigorated. I had the urge to like just pick up a ringing phone and just start answering questions and being part of whatever was going on in this office. It was totally out of my comfort zone, and I totally wanted to be a part of it. And to be completely honest, at that point, I would have probably taken an unpaid internship just to get in on the action. But that was the point where it was just an eye-opening experience to all this industry and this career out there that I had no idea at that point even existed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Totally.
Well, Emily, appreciate you sharing that. Third and final question: why do you do what you do?
All right, so this is where everybody always gets a little sentimental, right? I'll follow suit. It's fine. So, I've got 2 little girls, and they just turned 7 now, but they've seen basically me be in this industry their entire lives, and so obviously I get to tell them, and they want to know what I do for a living, which their dad is in software and he's a coder. So let me just say, I already have a point of pride that I have them covered in spades, that I get to take your kid to work day. I've got that covered. And so I get to, tell them, obviously they know that I buy land and I help to decide where communities are going to be built, but not just about what I do. Going on job sites when they were little, it was about the framers and the excavators and the roofers, and those are the really tangible things that they could see. But as they get older, they ask questions more about what they do. And my best friend, who she's in sales and marketing in Florida still with Meritage, they want to know what she does now, and they want to know about sales and marketing and designing model homes and making architecture decisions. And so now that they get to ask more involved questions about how it gets to that point, and we get to talk about designing where the pipes go and how to make the models look like people, places that people see themselves living, and who puts in the playgrounds, and who lays the tile, and who seals the grout and the drywall, and who the people are that call and make sure that our homeowners are happy and help them if they've got an issue, and on and on and on. And every time that I tell them about it, it's reaffirming that I know that I'm in the right industry, because I get excited talking to just about anybody about it, but especially them. And I really am just enormously proud that I get to work with all of these amazing, talented, skilled people, and that we are one of the last industries that makes not just something tangible, but not just a widget. We build places that families call home, and that's just an enormous source of pride for me.
Absolutely. It is tangible. And I think that will always be the theme. It'll always be creating something out of nothing and truly building communities. So, Emily, thank you so much for taking your time today. I really appreciated hearing your story, and I can't wait to share it.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
All right, Emily, have a great day. I'll talk to you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that concludes our 5th episode. I'm your host, Mark Sherlock, and always remember why you do what you do.